Hi, everybody. And as you know, I have been doing a series of interviews and chats with people that I find interesting. And this morning, we've got Justine Lette from New Zealand, and she actually owns Hypnosis New Zealand, teaches it. She has so many modalities that she does. But you know what? Let's just find out from her all about herself and how it all started and what gave her this passion. So, Justine, as we start, thanks so much for giving me your time because I know what a little busy bee you are.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome.
So, tell us how on earth did you even get down this field and how old are you?
Yeah. So hypnotherapy, probably like most people that get into our profession, it started way back, more around the spirituality stuff. I grew up in that kind of environment quite young, and a lot of positive thinking as a child, and that kind of environment. And then from there, in my 20s, I went through lots of different healing modalities, as you do, massage therapy, a bit of homeopathy. You go through all the different things, which is what I see in hypnotherapy. It seems to be the way people get into this. I had a real interest in past life regression well before doing the actual hypnotherapy and hypnosis. Not so much in the technique of it, but I got really into, like the younger kids having memories of lifetimes and the research, more of the science stuff. And then I got into past life regression as a tool, which led me into hypnosis and hypnotherapy. What I realized was the changes that we got in past life could be so much bigger and basically everyday life things as well. And I wanted to learn what was going on underneath, how the mind worked. And from then, of course, it's grown from there. So I started out having my own practice, ThoughtWorks Hypnotherapy, mostly working with weight loss and things like that with hypnosis, and then getting into, I took over Hypnosis New Zealand, which is a organisation that has a lot of hypnotherapy members, and it's all about socialising, continuing education. What I found in New Zealand was there wasn't a lot of support here, or there wasn't a community feel of people working together in this profession, and there wasn't a lot of learning, a lot of people coming in and teaching new different ideas. And so my goal with Hypnosis New Zealand was to get a lot of trainings going, to get a community going, and of course bringing in more spiritual aspects, of course, to hypnosis in New Zealand. I remember the first time I went to a hypnotherapy training and I mentioned that I was interested in past lives, it was completely shut down. The room went quiet. I was told that, that it's just metaphoric or, storytelling. So it was, I came into this environment in a very cold, quite not open-minded place. And over the years, the community now in New Zealand, it's incredible, the hypnotherapy community, especially with Hypnosis New Zealand, a bunch of amazing, open-minded people that we have conversations about everything and anything you'll find out today. And we also offer, really good training and support here.
So, tell me some of the courses that you actually offer. What is it that you offer?
For Hypnosis New Zealand, myself personally, I run a diploma and advanced diploma in hypnotherapy. So the diploma is...
Interrupt you, in clinical hypnotherapy?
So it's clinical hypnotherapy. So the diploma is working with basic things that people would come into, fears and weight loss and motivation, those kind of clinical hypnotherapy things from today onwards. And then when I get into the advanced training, it's my big passion is working with trauma and trauma that's stored in the body. Yes. So pretty much trauma that's stored in the limbic or the emotional part of the brain. So I teach a technique called golden thread, which is a form of regression going back and working on hidden memories and things like that. So you learn that in the advanced, it just gets into different techniques. So that's Hypnosis New Zealand trainings. And then I teach a few different things as well. I teach the Simpson Protocol, which is just out the gate awesome. That's working with superconscious. So it's similar to people listening to you, Jill. It's kind of in the same playing field of where we take people into deep states of trance and communicate directly with what we call superconscious, also call quantum mind, higher self, that kind of communication. And through that, we ask lots of different questions and have crazy, crazy cool stuff happen, especially on the trainings. It's just the places when you can learn to access the different levels, layers of the mind. We call it the mind. I don't mean this mind. I mean, like who we are.
The energy field.
The field where we can access these different places, so much magic happens. So with SP, the main goal is to be able to put people into quite deep, or I say quite high states, because what we do is we take people to a level of depth, and then it seems that we go outside of ourselves, so that people can actually access those spaces at home using self-hypnosis.
Yes.
So my biggest goal with doing that training, apart from working with students to learn to access, to do these kind of protocols on people, is to educate anyone that comes in that we can enter these states very quickly, very easily ourselves, and have that communication going with the higher part of us. So we can, in my last training, I think we spent 3 days, and on the third day managed to get a quite what I would call analytical. When I say an analytical person, it's a person who is quite in their head, thinking a lot. For hypnosis, it would take, everyone can go into these spaces, but sometimes it would take a bit longer. The trust has to be there, the rapport has to be there. Within the 3 days, on the third day, the girl was able to take herself into a space which I call divine, which is this amazing vibration type place, and then open her eyes and be able to see the color around people within 60 to 90 seconds by training the mind to enter these different states of trance very quickly. So that's the stuff I absolutely love. Like,
So
for me, that
people,
work is amazing. Yeah.
those people who actually come to do that SP, Simpson protocol, right?
Yeah.
What kind of people are they?
Oh, definitely open-minded people. More I attract more spiritually minded people. So with Hypnosis New Zealand, we have hundreds of members, and most of them are quite open-minded. The Simpson protocol itself, it can be learned all around the world. I'm just the New Zealand trainer, so it's not something I created myself. It can be used for more metaphysical stuff, but it's also a clinical hypnotherapy, can be used, as just a normal hypnosis session for things like weight loss. Yeah. So the people that generally come to my training are quite open-minded people, but I know around the world there's one guy in Australia who just does clinical hypnotherapy using that process, and it's very structured. This is how it is. There's no mention of how I would explain it, but I tend to, even in my diploma and my advanced, even when I am teaching psychiatrists or doctors or medical people, they tend to be very open. Our conversations tend to not stick to clinical hypnotherapy. I find it very hard reining it in. So like I might be teaching trauma work, and suddenly I've got a student I'm doing a demo on in another lifetime, or doing this, and what I found in the last few years is that our world has changed so much. Like we might have had some craziness happen, but at the same time people are opening up so quickly. I'm having conversations with people that maybe 5 or 6 years ago you would have never had. I remember going in and teaching a room full of psychologists and psychiatrists for a mental health organization, and at the end of it they were begging me to take them into a different lifetime, and I was sitting here thinking, this would have never happened when years ago when I walked into the scene. I wasn't even allowed to mention these kind of things. I was quite shut down. So I might have helped with that, running HNZ and opening up a space to have conversations that are, having a space open to be able to have non-judgmental conversations. But at the same time, I think the energy has changed, that people are starting to look for more, or even look inside of themselves for answers instead of going outside maybe.
So how will those doctors then treat their patients differently, do you think?
Yeah, so when I do work with medical people, it's all around language. So it's all around language and having a real deep understanding that basically we all create, in a roundabout way, we all create our reality in the moment, meaning that our perception is really formed on what's going on in the background of our mind, what's going on in our subconscious. What we see around us is either there to, the things that we're seeing in a room or in a space we're in is either there to keep us safe. So for people that are sitting in trauma, say we see only about 200 pieces of information per second out of millions. I don't know if that number is accurate. That was quite a few years ago when I learned about that. The pieces of information that you do see in your reality is based on around either growth or keeping you safe. So if someone is in a trauma space or anxious, like a lot of people have been, the mind will focus on the things that you need to see to keep yourself safe. Of course, which is why people, I work with women a lot that tend to get into the same destructive relationship over and over again. And I kind of explain to them that when you've got trauma sitting in your, especially if it's an implicit memory, a hidden memory in the mind, which brings a feeling in, and your mind's always scanning for a threat or danger tied into that feeling in your body, then your mind instantly points out the danger. But what we tend to do as women is the danger is pointed out and we go, oh, he looks nice. That's quite familiar. I think it must feel right because I've got this feeling, and so they tend to move towards the same kind of situation, familiar situation. Yeah, and until we heal or work on that, the feeling that's coming up, that's driving us towards, our mind is driving us towards to show us, hey, there's danger over there, until those feelings are cleared out of our bodies. We tend to attract the same patterns in our life again. So I don't know how we got onto that conversation.
I don't know. Through the trauma, through the Simpson protocol.
Oh, yeah.
And how they were treating people.
And how doctors are. Oh, yeah. So we're talking about how doctors use this stuff. So when you learn more about the mind and information, you start to learn language. I had a really good example. I had to take my auntie to the hospital the other day, and the nurse said to her as she put the injection in, you're going to feel a very sharp prick. Oh. And like you learn with, and of course they're going to feel it, and you learn with hypnosis, if you were to say to someone when you're giving them an injection, if you just look over there for a moment and just tell me what you did this morning, it's quite a possibility that when it's done, the person will go, oh,
didn't even feel it.
Done already. They wouldn't even feel it. So language is a big part of it. And of course, also I work with people a lot with pain and chronic pain, teaching people about chronic pain. So we have physios and things come through. And most of the time for chronic pain, so not pain that's going right now, it tends to actually have a emotional link. So when we have events happen in our life, especially events that create shock, situations that we can't run away from the situation, we can't fight it, we don't have the emotional resources to understand why, the mind will take that as a big, scary thing. And so the memory, as it comes in, gets implanted into our limbic system, our emotional system of our brain. So this is when we're working with trauma, we tend to work with these hidden memories that are stuck in the wrong parts of the brain. Sometimes those memories tend to keep on going, and they go through a part of the brain where this is that way I see it, is it can get a bit stuck in the pain system, the pain part of the brain. So instead of the trauma or the memory being presented as an emotion like anxiety or things like that, sometimes it can actually be presented as pain, chronic pain, back pain, fibro, things like that, that when you do go to a doctor and they just keep on saying, look, there's nothing wrong with you, it's in your mind, not in a bad way, it's in your mind, but literally it is a response coming from the mind. When you start to learn how to work with these stuck memories, they're not necessarily emotions, they're memories or parts of time that have been not correctly processed in our mind. Once we can shift those, then of course the pain goes, or whatever the body is presenting, and whether it be pain, weight, or mind stuff like anxiety. So even when we're working with people in the medical field or in the mind field, having a real understanding about how pain isn't necessarily pain, we've got to actually look into the emotions, what's going on underneath that. And once you sort that out, then of course we have amazing things happen.
So that's like that Louise Hay thing, that's the metaphysical. So you find the pain that's happening, look at the metaphysical emotion that's connected to address the emotion.
And it goes even deeper, because it is with the memories that are hidden in the limbic system and the other systems of the brain, not the front part of the brain. You never, because it hasn't gone through the front part or the logical part of the brain, they're definitely not memories and things that we could sit down and go, I'm doing this because of this. It's generally joining the dots to how it happened sometimes is impossible, to why this memory here created this situation. Just because it hasn't been processed in a way that we have that understanding. But usually it goes back to, I tend to not talk about emotions, I tend to talk about memories or a moment in time, because within that memory is a massive amount of emotion. Like when you deal with implicit memories, which are the ones we don't have access to. Explicit are the ones we have access to. Implicit memories we don't have access to cognitively. So you wouldn't be able to talk your way into finding these memories. They're expressed in our bodies as an emotional response, getting triggered, or like I said, as pain and weight and things like that. When you're working with these memories, it's every time. So say something happened to us when we were very young. It could be something as little as waking up in the middle of the night for the first time without mum. And at that moment, the little baby, can't get away from the situation, can't fight the situation, doesn't have the emotional resources to understand that mum's next door. In that exact moment, it's a big trauma, right? It's a big moment for that baby. So the mind scans the area and creates that memory, and that's the memory that gets stored in the limbic system. And then from then on, there's a feeling within the baby, and it might be like, every time it's dark, I'm going to cry. And so this feeling, every time the feeling comes up, the mind then scans the area and puts a new image onto the old one. And then through your life, it just keeps getting implanted and getting made stronger until the feeling's really big, which is really, really interesting. And that's why I was saying sometimes we don't know what we're doing now. I've worked with people for a really good example was a lady came in for a fear of flying, and I just got her to sit in the fear and go back to the moment it was created. And it had nothing to do with, of course, planes. Normal hypnosis would work on desensitizing a plane and making it comfortable to be around a plane and see yourself hopping on a plane. But what it actually went back to was, the sudden death of her father, and she didn't get to say goodbye, but the feeling, she was sitting in an airport, and when she thought about her dad, she got triggered, the feeling came up, the mind put the plane onto the trigger. So like I said, we never know if airplanes can go back. And with her, all we do is we just go back to, it's a beautiful process. The last time she saw her dad alive, and then bring dad through with a beautiful light around him and say the goodbyes and a lot of messages tend to come through, and then we send them to the light and bring through the loving feeling, and then that grief is gone. And with the grief and the connection, everything associated to that memory also releases. So the fear of flying and anything else that goes along that was tied into that pattern, it moves on, it gets processed, and then all the other things are.
So many people don't realize that the trauma that they're holding or being triggered by is from a past time, or a parallel life, whatever you want to call it.
It's and being that, the way I like to see it now is that there is only this moment. We have this moment here and now, and within that moment is every moment, if you get what I mean.
So what are you creating for every moment now?
Yeah. So here we are here with me. Sometimes even when I go back into childhood, or someone drifts into a different lifetime, it tends to happen in a moment. It doesn't happen through long, for me anymore, it doesn't need to be a long induction going into this deep space. Most of the time now, it's bringing up that feeling or that trigger that the person's experiencing so strongly, closing your eyes, go back to the moment it started, and suddenly within a second we're in a different lifetime. We're in childhood, we're in wherever that implicit memory started. So when I'm working with implicit memories, it tends to stay in what we would consider this lifetime. And I think it's because we're working with such a animal part of our brain, like we're deep down in the amygdala, we're deep down in this real that kind of part of the brain. So when I work with these implicit memories, it does generally tend to go back to under 7 in this lifetime. Whereas when I work with super conscious, higher mind, deeper states of trance using an induction, we tend to go everywhere and anywhere. And even then I still work in a space. The only way my mind can understand now reality is that we're here and now in the moment, but when we close our eyes, we have the ability to be everywhere and anywhere, and we are there in that moment as well. So when I'm with someone and they close their eyes and they open their eyes and they're in a different time or place, and they're talking to me, even with a different voice or whatever, to me they are here and now, but experiencing that reality. That's just the way my brain is trying to get around understanding reality instead of going sideways, up, backwards. For me, it's all we have is here and now, but we have access to every moment, in all these different times and realities.
And when you actually realize that, I think it takes a lot of stress away, because you realize that this is just tiny little blip on the radar. This is one tiny little adventure of just one lifetime. So why take it so seriously? Why just not look around and see where you've decided to incarnate in and to, and think, wow, this is like a playground.
It's totally a playground. And I've been really, really thinking lately about, I work with, I don't see so many clients now, so most of my time is spent with students, but with students, we do a lot of what you would call healing, because we do a lot of practice on each other. It's just, for me, it's all fun. We get out there and we practice with each other to get good to work with clients. But I've just lost my train of thought.
Oh, so, okay, it doesn't matter, because we just chatting. So what do you think it's all about? Why do you actually think we're even here at the moment?
Yeah. So I did just remember what I was going to say. I'll answer that in a minute. What I was going to say was what I find with people is they tend to dwell on things that have happened to them, or why have things happened to me. So say they dwell into a relationship that happened a few years ago, or they're wondering, my life right now, is it because I've had a bad experience in a past life, or is it because of my childhood? What I'm starting to really learn is the more you can get into this space and realize that your childhood at the end is just a memory, or it's an energetic thing living within your system. It's not actually real right here and right now. What is real is you. Then it also can take away, or you can release the energy of your childhood very quickly when you realize, and you allow your body and your mind to realize that, hey, your childhood is not actually happening here and now. So the quicker you can get into the space and realize, okay, my childhood, it might not have been very nice, but let's just get the energy of that wherever that's sitting in my body and release it now, get into the moment and work out what it is I actually want, and know that you can have anything that you want in this moment. You can, and anything that's happened in your past, even it be, no matter how terrible it was, just releasing the energy or that it has on you, and then stepping forward in a space. So actually I'm safe, I'm here in this room, and I can actually create a life I want.
But those people that are coming to you, Justine, are coming to you because they are now ready to release.
Totally, 100%. They don't even come in the room if they can't. Yeah, and a lot of the time, even just hearing someone say that, because we do work on, like I said, we do work on clearing the emotions and clearing the trauma, and we do go through that process. Sometimes just changing the mindset of, these things that have happened to you, that they are now, because they're not happening right here, right now in this moment, they are just energy. They're your mind drifting back to a time and place through thought. Let's release that now and let's move forward, kind of thing, instead of people see it as such a real thing in their mind.
But that's why they need to know who they are. When they realize that they are a light body wearing a meat suit, right? Then they can work on the light body.
Yeah.
And that's why that energetic healing, or energy healing as it's called now, works.
Yeah.
You are actually changing the frequency and the vibrations.
Yeah, totally. And we've had some amazing things happen. Like in the last few years, we had 2 people who work with superconscious higher mind. One was a psychiatrist and another lady was a business lady.
Right.
Work with people with cancer, and with one session using higher mind, both these different people went, and I know a disclaimer, this is not the norm because I'm around this all the time. There has to be a lot of things lined up, but it can happen. Both of them went to have their surgeries and they were cancer free. One of them even showed in their blood that they had already had a process to release it, and that was done through using the higher mind, deeper states of trance. And if you think our physical body, our meat suit, is just trillions and trillions of cells, when we and vibration and energy, then I see there's no reason why we can't have spontaneous healing. And I don't think there is even one modality that does it. I think it's to do with the space the person's holding and the belief, and there's a lot of factors in it, and it's not one modality is better than anything else. I think it's got to do with everything lining up, but it is so real.
But it's that, I think what you've just put the nail on the head is a belief.
Yeah. And it's belief from the parties in the room. And it's just, to me now, when we're working with higher mind, or we're getting into the space of being who we truly are, I don't think there's any limits to what in a human sense can be achieved, because I see miracles. Yeah.
Why isn't this being taught in schools then?
Right, it's not being taught in schools, but I know. I think with me, education is everything. So when I do work with clients, I just say to them, right, I'm a teacher, I'm seeing you as a client, but education is everything. And educating, I tell you what, having mums coming in of children under the age of 7 and educating them and changing the way they parent is huge. It's huge. Even just in little things, like if someone came for weight loss, because I do a emotional release weight loss program, which is actually focused on clearing out all your stuff in the background, which allows your body to be in a space of where it's supposed to be. Just educating the mums and listening to your body and having that strong connection. They then go home and do it with their little ones, who then are producing children that actually listen to their gut feelings. And, you know, instead of kids are taught eat when you're told and don't listen to your body, and, you know,
Finish all the food on your plate.
yeah, and that actually rolls out in life, of doing what you're told and following what everyone tells you instead of going within and listening to your body. So even kids being told to eat when they're not hungry, if you think of the flow on from that, is have a girl, she's 14 years old and she's going on a date, and her gut says this is not right. She's been trained from day one not to listen to what her body tells her. So even quietly educating people, you know, for people that do work in this kind of space, we can educate people a lot by using everyday things. And I know when I was doing a session on, because I do a bit of channeling, I was wanting questions answered around why we have to ask so many questions in hypnosis, because I know that change happens instantly.
Yeah.
And the answer was around, you know, the human mind, of course, the conscious part of the client needs to hear some of the questions, you know, being asked to have enough belief in the change happening. So, and it was also around, education. Oh, yeah. So what they said was with the process was that if we have these really structured processes, then we're able to use the process for things like smoking and weight loss, but at the same time, because we're asking the questions to be done, that it's raising the frequency and energy of the people that we're working with, but being able to utilize these processes in a way where people are coming in the door for smoking, weight loss, and the everyday things that people are looking for. And then it opens the space for conversation and learning, which I thought was really cool. Yeah. So through even doing clinical hypnotherapy, and through education, and conversation, there's a lot of learning being done, you know, energetically, as well. So yeah.
That's what I love the most.
Yeah.
I think more than anything as well, like you, I just love to teach. If I know something, it's like, wow, that one little thing can change your life.
It really can. And it is through, like even with us talking today, you know, what a person hears, you know, it's very unique to them. So our conversation today, that someone might hear just one tiny little thing, and it might just flick on a switch and gets them thinking, and then their mind thinks, and then the process begins, and boom, they're off into a different reality. And I think the moment we have thought, we create our new reality. That's how we can quickly bring good stuff into our lives, but also not good stuff. Most people worry, and when you worry, of course, things tend to actualize through thought, right? We worry something's going to happen, and then boom, told you, you know, and it happens the other way. So even the power of conversation and chatting and talking with people opens up.
Well, they told me that this is our portal of light.
Yeah.
And so when it comes out, is it going to be light?
Beautiful. Yeah. Language.
And they said, so if you've been blessed with it coming in clean and pure, what is it going to be when it comes out? And please remember that if you feel the need to denigrate another, that is exactly the gift that you're choosing for yourself, because it's just physics. The energy where it goes will always give an opposite and equal reaction. So it's going to come right back.
Yeah. Completely.
And sometimes it takes a long time to learn that.
Yeah. And I think when we are working with each other, you know, when we are working with people in these processes, I have found that when you are having information, like you said, coming through clean and clear, for me, the trauma that sits inside our mind seems to be what can dirty up the information a little bit, if you get what I say. So
static on the line.
Yep. Yeah. so the information might be coming through you, but then it gets filtered through your experience. And if your experience, if there's a lot of maybe hurt or things like that, then as the information comes through and it comes out of you,
Could be distorted.
It can be tainted with your life experience. And that's why I find when I know a lot of people that do readings and information like that, you can kind of hear how the information, the deepness of the information coming through is pure, but then you can also hear how the life experience of the person giving the information through is kind of influencing.
And that's interesting, because my guide said when I give readings that it's for the receiver.
Yeah.
And it's not for me to interpret.
Yeah.
So you just give them what you've told and leave it to them to interpret it, because they will know.
Yeah. So I think I think for us all working on ourselves, and to, if you've got people that work energetically with you to heal parts of you in the background, really helps that information to come through clean and clear and pure, right?
I want to tell you something. I hypnotized my sister a little while ago, and I said to her, where are you? And she said, I'm in the repository. Like, I said, oh, what's that? And she answered me in a way like, oh, duh, everybody knows the repository kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I said, well, tell me what it is. And she said, you walk through a tunnel of light, and on either side are the blues and the greens and the purples and the yellows and all the colors that you know and all the colors that you don't even know exist. And every single color holds a vibration, but which is matched to an emotion. And it holds everything that every human ever wanted, has ever desired, and is still going to desire. So it is the total place of manifestation, and it's a repository. So she said, what humans don't know is they can have anything in the repository. However, their vibration, their frequency has to match it. And I got the image of a toddler only being able to get what's on the bottom shelf. They're not tall enough yet to get all the goodies on all the other shelves until they grow. So she said what happens is humans will say want a new car, and they'll take 2 steps towards the repository to get it, and then they'll take 2 steps back going, oh, well, that only happens to other people, or I don't learn enough. And then they go forward and backwards, and they spend all this time treading water. And yet the repository doesn't care whether you have 12 cars or no cars. It's just there waiting for you to match it. And I suppose that's where you come in, and the kind of work that we do to get them out of their own way and remind them who they are.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And it's got a lot to do with, for me, it's got with what you're talking about, it's got to do with feeling. It's if we're talking just normal clinical hypnotherapy, so if we're not talking in the different rounds, people come in wanting to create change. And when you ask them what is it that you actually want, that they can tell you everything they don't want. They can tell you why they haven't got what they've got. They can go into that kind of stuff. I call it this stuff over here. But when I say, what is over here like? They have no idea. And so, even they're proving this with quantum physics, about how you can change matter with thought. You're doing a lot with straightening DNA and influencing light. When you get a person where they are to sit in what it feels like to be where they are, and then to get them to stand in a space or to sit in a space of where they want to be and really feel it, and then describe what it is they're actually feeling, first by what it feels in your body to have what it is you want, and then what is it that you actually want. It's really interesting, because what they say is never why they even came in. They might be coming in for weight loss because I want to feel good. And I say to them, well, what does it feel like to be at your goal weight? Blah, blah, blah. And they're like, oh, I want to be this. What does it feel like? I've never been there. and I've never been there because of my childhood. So when I actually get them to sit in where they want to be, just imagine you're there now. What does it feel like? It actually comes back. I feel free. I feel authentic. I feel light. I feel myself. Nothing about weight. Nothing about weight. And so it's like, okay, so I want you to sit in and really lock in that feeling, sit in that space, because now you know where it is. Your mind is going to start to take you there. You can start to move towards what it is you want once you know what you want, once you feel it. But most people are here knowing what they don't want, and they're stabbing in the dark, trying to feel better by getting the next thing, like you said, when in actual fact, you can have what you want right here and right now. Because if a client can close their eyes and go into that space of what it is they really want, and it ends up being light, free, being myself, then in that exact moment in the room, they're already there. They're already there. And so if they were to open their eyes and start walking in the space of being there already, the world has to change to match, because their energy does not match their reality. And yeah, it might be yucky. People might drift away that you thought, were part of your life.
But those are the very ones that are holding you, making you heavy.
Because their energy, because when you actually sit in that, and I term it, we all call it when we're using SP and stuff, we call it a divine feeling. And so for me, when I close and take myself to that divine feeling, I get it now. I get vibrations through my body. It's a light feeling. It's just incredible. But I've been teaching people recently to go into that divine feeling, open your eyes and walk in that space, because by doing that, everything that doesn't match that frequency has to drop away. It's not a energy.
It's not a match.
Yeah. So instead of looking into the future, in 10 years' time, when I've got $1 million, I'm going to be happy. It's about actually sitting in the space here and now and finding out what you've got to know what it feels like, just sitting in that space, finding that feeling, and then opening your eyes and walking in that space. And yeah, I'm totally 100% human, and I don't do that a lot of the time myself. I have to remind myself, especially when I'm a solo mum and I've got businesses and I have to go to the supermarket, which I don't want to do later. And it's like, okay, I don't think I'll be walking around the supermarket in divine, even though if I did, I would probably have a beautiful experience. But you know what I mean? So we are human. But I tell you what, if you start to even spend moments in that space in your life, it's going to start getting easier and easier until one day you're just walking in that beautiful space all the time. It just becomes you, and all the other shit, my language just drops off.
Drops off. So do you do any of these online, like pre-recorded, so people who can't travel or for whatever reasons can't afford the expense, could they do it online with you?
So basically, I teach. So my diploma in advance. So for the Hypnosis New Zealand stuff is online.
Yes.
And there's an online portal. So I do the training portions, the in-person portions online as well. So people can sign up from anywhere, except for it is New Zealand times. I do in person as well. I'm only just starting to do in person as well again.
Yeah.
And it is, of course, always fun. For me, the energy is no different. And with my students online, we have so much fun. It's just as, once people get their head around, that we are all in the same moment here together, whether it is on a screen or in person, the energy exchange is the same. Online is just as cool. So yeah, I do online and in person. Yeah.
So what about like the golden thread and stuff like that? Do you do all that?
It's all online. Yeah.
All online.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So the golden thread, if people want to learn that and not the whole training, I do teach the golden thread, the trauma process on its own, and I will teach people one-on-one, or I'll do it in groups online. The golden thread I tend to only teach online, and the advanced stuff, just because when I teach, we do a lot of work ourselves. So it's one of my jobs here in this reality, in this moment, I believe, like for myself personally, is to work with those, clearing those memories out of people, because the minute we do, the energy shifts. So if I'm walking in town, or I'm at the hairdresser, or I've done it at a stadium buying tickets, if someone looks at me and their eyes change and emotion steps forward, which is a personality of them coming forward and talking to me, then I'll clear. It takes 10 minutes, then we'll clear that.
What do you mean? Say that. Explain that.
Explain that. Okay, so when I'm working with implicit memories, what happens?
About like in a stadium or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Random strangers.
Yeah. So a stranger. So basically, if someone says to me, "What do you do?" and I say, I do hypnotherapy work and specializing in trauma, if they look at me and they start to say, "Oh, something happened to me when I was younger," and their eyes change. So to me, the personality where that trauma started steps through and looks at me, and you can see it. The eyes go watery. The emotion steps in. Then we'll just do the process then and there. It takes about 10 minutes, and then that personality is integrated back into the body, and eyes are open. They'll never get triggered again. That feeling won't come up again, and their energies, their frequency is changed, because that heaviness is not sitting anymore. It's basically a personality or part of the person that steps through and takes hold of the person every time they get triggered. It explains why we do crazy things when we're triggered that's out of character. Like a really normal, strong, confident person might get triggered, and for a moment their head might drop and they might not be able to talk, because the personality of that person that's stuck when they first created, maybe a 2 or 3 year old, that personality will step through and take over while the feeling is there. So you'll have a different posture, different voice, eyes might change, just like if you're working with real mental, we have these personalities step in. So when I see that personality step in, we just do what needs to be done for that personality in that time and integrate it back to now. And then anything that's tied into that memory or that is shifted on.
Awesome.
Yeah,
so now I want to speak about, I'm just finishing off my book, and in it I'm sort of really wanting to teach people, I suppose the main thing is it's time to step out of the spiritual closet.
Yeah, completely, 100%.
Right?
Yeah.
What are your feelings on that?
100%. And it's...
What's stopping them from stepping out? Acceptance, fear?
Yeah, judgment. Yeah, judgment of what if. And like I said, when I came into hypnotherapy, it was, we would never have had metaphysical conversations. And I do remember when I first had this amazing lady, Dawn, on a HNZ call, I did hear through the circles that, oh, Justine shouldn't be doing that. It's going to ruin the profession in New Zealand. It's going to degrade it. People won't respect hypnotherapists. And it has absolutely done the opposite. And if you do go on to, there's so many, there's 60 odd Zooms now on the HNZ platform. And I tell you what, 50% of those are metaphysical ones. And what I find is that when you do, and even recently, because I do a podcast as well on Spotify, and I only just started that one. And
what's that called?
I think it's called Limitless Hypnosis.
Right.
Podcast. And there's only 4 or 5 of them now, but it's the same thing. The conversations are like, I'm totally out of the closet now, because I think the guy got me to talk in hypnosis on that podcast, just a few little things. So that's, yeah. But what I found is that when people are nervous of being judged or nervous of stepping forward. And even in the last few years, there's a real, the way society is it's a them and us type of, not to do with spirituality, but in general, in everyday life, there's been a push on them and us. It's to do with lots of different, areas in society, seeing people as that person's this,
as other.
That. Yeah, and so for people, our biggest human fear, like if we're talking human, meat, flesh, animal, we're animals living on the earth. Our biggest fear, and the biggest fear in like working with fears and hypnosis, is public speaking and being out there. Because if we did go back into the wild times, If a community disowned you, you would have been dead overnight, being eaten by an animal, right? So having a sense of safety and community is, you know, the most in-depth fear for our survival as a human being. Yeah. So there is these deep parts of us, you know, inside that want to be accepted, and so by being out there, if you're not around spiritual people, then of course stepping forward and stepping into that space will bring up all of these feelings and sensations of what if, which is why we're here. Come and have a session, we can smash that easy. But anyway, but the other thing is, what you find is when you do actually, and I found this with HNZ, when you do step out into your space, then you attract a whole new tribe of people, and it doesn't bother you at all. Yes. I have people come to me on a training just for clinical hypnotherapy, and they come through for something clinical, and we're having a conversation and they're deciding who to train with, and I'm pretty straight up, because I say to them, look, the conversations that we have, you know, we're a bunch of open-minded people, and things happen in the courses that are way out there. A lot of the time I can't even explain why, and instantly they'll say, oh my God, I can't believe I'm having a conversation with someone about this. I thought I was the only one. Do you know how often I hear, I thought I was the only one, especially talking about stuff? Yeah.
Justine, that is my whole point. How do you know that the 4 people next to you on the bus or whatever are not also holding? They're just holding. They're waiting to open the cupboard doors, and they're too scared to say anything. Because what if somebody thinks they're crazy or they suddenly vilified? So all these people are holding and not releasing who they are.
Exactly. And do you know what?
For what?
Yeah, and if somebody did think you were crazy, and to be honest, I've had such crazy experiences. There's been times that the human part of me thinks, am I crazy? So
me too.
We all.
I'm ready for the nut house.
Right? Exactly. But if somebody, the big thing to remember when it comes down to being judged is if somebody judges, okay, and all my training and everything is based on perception. So I'm saying this coming from a space of education. So believe me, if somebody judges you and thinks you're crazy, it's because there's something inside themselves. It's a reflection of things that are going on within themselves. It always is. So for someone to think about something, so if someone thought something about you, or if anyone ever says anything mean about you, does anything to you, calls you names, it's a reflection on what's going on inside of them. It always is 100%. It is never about you, because we cannot see things in reality, in our reality and our perception, unless they're sitting within us. So it doesn't mean if I think somebody else is a certain way that I think that about myself. There's an idea that you only see qualities that you hold within yourself, and I don't think that's accurate. What I think is accurate is if you see a quality in someone that you don't like, it's either a part of you or it will be in your reality. So maybe a parent was that way, or maybe you've experienced something related to that, to what it is that person is feeling. So if someone did look at you and go, oh, she's crazy, for them to even be able to say that or think that, it means that that's actually an expression of their reality. So who cares what people say?
But they can. Anybody's allowed to say whatever they like.
Exactly.
It doesn't mean that you've got to take it on board.
Yeah, and it's not actually, when you actually sit back and go, this is actually not about me personally. This is they've got a perception and a reflection going on in their reality. And so
would you stop your beautiful craziness then, just to appease them? So then who are you living for?
Exactly.
Are you living for them?
Exactly.
Or are you living for you?
Yeah, and even so, by being your craziness or being your beautiful craziness and just staying in that space, the other people that are uncomfortable about that, they'll either the energy will have to drift, which sometimes can be a bit sad, or they will start to look into themselves. Why am I feeling that way? And they'll start to learn, and their energy will go up. But it's really important that you are authentic and you are holding your space. At an energy level, been told this in my trainings. Authenticity is everything.
Yep.
So finding out who you just being yourself. And if yourself is crazy, if yourself is me seeing my clients with ripped jeans and a jersey on today, people actually say to me that I'm just 100% myself, and that's all of my bad stuff, good stuff, and it's just being me and just saying and people actually are drawn to that. And yeah,
the same as me. I thought, well, here I am having an interview with you, maybe I should put on a jacket or whatever, but it's chilly. It's chilly outside, and so I chose comfort over professionalism, because I thought the words that we're going to discuss are going to be exactly the same. It doesn't matter what I'm wearing.
No, it doesn't matter, and it's just about being yourself. So for people, the best thing you can do is just to like I said, there is a way of actually finding out who you are too, because there are layers of you that have been put there through life. I mean, nearly, if you were to break down all of our thoughts and ideas, it's interesting, even a concept, one that would shake up the concept of relationships. So the concept of getting married and having a man and woman, all that kind of stuff, all our beliefs, our human beliefs and things that we have are things that we learned from day one through looking around us, our belief system, even who we are. Who we are in a human sense has been put there by our environment and others around us, because essentially if we drifted off all our thoughts of reality, we'll be back to this little spark of light.
What about life right now for Justine?
Life right now for Justine.
Who's Justine?
Who's Justine? Also, me personally?
Yeah.
Who is Justine? Well, I've got, if you want to talk about my family and things like that, is that what you mean?
Yeah, like, who are you?
Who are you? So, I'm a mum.
Yeah.
So I've got a 22-year-old and I've got a 12-year-old, beautiful Melody. And so she's homeschooled with me here. I'm really, really lucky, because both my girls are what I would call very easy to manage. Very, very easy children. Yeah, and I just spend my time doing my hypnotherapy stuff. I really love learning and study, as you know. When you looked me up, I'm really especially around the spirituality and the learning stuff. When you say who am I, I'm just a floaty little bubble of light that goes here to there, and yeah.
And do you travel to different areas of New Zealand? Have you been giving talks or anything?
Yeah, so yeah, I do. Oh man, do I love to travel. And I'm one of those people that I tend to do things on a whim. So I don't organize a lot of stuff. Like right now, when you said who am I, right now I'm creating a lot of programs, whether it be spiritual ones. I'm creating apps at the moment, my own personal apps, so that people can get information quicker on their phone. And then I just hop in the car. So last weekend, I just hopped in the car and drove from Rotorua to Christchurch and back, which is actually 18 hours, and hopping on a ferry for 4 hours. And we went to Castle Hill. So I took my daughter.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I took my daughter there, and it was snowing, and it was just incredible.
Did you have any?
So I do travel. Yeah, it's just that place is magical.
Isn't it just?
Yeah, she just hugged the rocks, and she could hear animals inside them. Which, so for her, I wanted to give her that experience. Yeah, I do talks, like I'm speaking in Dunedin in August, right. At a conference on hypnosis and hypnotherapy.
Is at the end of August, or when in August?
Oh, so that's in August, but it's for an organisation.
But is it at the end of August? When?
Oh, at the end of August.
Is it?
Yeah.
Because you might be able to come to Wanaka, because Michelle Carpenter is going to be here, in
Yeah.
Wanaka, and she said, why don't we give a talk or a workshop or something?
Yeah.
And I said, what I was thinking of is having more of a talk with people rather than workshop.
Yeah.
And saying to people, I think there's so many people, you know, the so-called spiritual language, it's like hieroglyphics for some people. When people talk about light language, higher selves, guides, grounding, all this kind of stuff, ascension, they don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So there might be somebody that's just really interested and wants to know more. And we spoke about airy fairy. Well, actually, to me, it's not airy fairy. I like the science about it. I love the quantum physics. I love the nuts and bolts and actually who you are, that you are this magnetic being, right?
So, completely.
So it takes away airy fairy and it says, no, we are actually like scientists.
Yeah. And we totally are. Yeah.
We are discovering all the time, and scientists never get to the end of it. It's another discovery and another discovery. I want to be able to hold a whole one day where people can come in and listen to the Justine story, to the Jill story, to the Michelle story. This is our story. Everybody's got a story.
Yeah.
And then maybe let them hear either tuning forks or a crystal bowl with their eyes closed.
Yeah.
See how the vibration feels. And then they can actually know what vibration is. That sort of thing.
Yeah. Feeling is interesting. Feeling is everything, hey?
Yeah.
Feeling is everything. I've learned that feeling is everything. If someone can feel something, if they can really feel it, then they know it. Whereas we do know the power of words, but when we use the words to get people to feel, magic happens.
Yeah. So
I'll definitely be able to
you'd be interested in something like that. And
totally. Yeah. And I love diving, so I'd even come down anyway. But yeah, definitely in the South Island.
Because if you're already there.
Yeah.
It's like,
and I was going to go back to Castle Hill again, and I was going to cruise around different areas just because I like it.
Yeah, that place is awesome. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I think, is we'll sort of end off now, and then I'll definitely have you on again, because we've only just literally scratched the surface, and the viewers have got to see a little bit of the smile.
Yeah. Cool, thank you.
So how do they get hold of you?
Okay, you can find me on, if you do Facebook, just under Justine Lette, which is the name will be there. You can find me at Hypnosis New Zealand, and you can. I'll just give the details for email. If you look up Justine Lette on Google, you'll get lots of things there, lots of different ways to find me, and there's different ways to listen to information. There's Zooms that people can watch, and I love to talk about this stuff. So if anyone just wants to even chat, it's
awesome.
An element.
Yeah, so much to talk about, so little time.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, listen, thank you so much for your time today, and we're definitely going to do this again.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Jill.
Okay, guys, so you've had a little taste of Justine. I mean, don't get intimidated by her arm and leg and fingers and toes of qualifications. She is incredible. I don't know how she still happens to be a mother with all those qualifications, or even has time to breathe, but she's definitely a superhuman. And you might just get to have a chance to have a session with her or learn with her. And anything you'd like to say in closing?
No, just what we were talking about before. Close your eyes and just connect up and really feel that space of what I call divine, whatever you call it, and then open your eyes and just see if you can walk in that space every day, because it's so cool.
I think that's a perfect ending. Thank you so much. Bye-bye, everybody.